Well, Jim, I want to thank you for stopping by the spoiler room here to talk about your new film, End Times. It just came out on VOD July 14th in select theaters. And yeah, I'm sure you've probably been pretty busy since it's been been released.
Yeah, it's a good kind of busy though. It's nice. It's nice
Yeah.
to be finally here. We shot it a couple years ago. We shot it pre-pandemic actually.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so we spent some the obviously pandemic slowed us down a
sure.
little bit, and we spent some time in post-production stuff. So it's really great to just be here at this point of the journey and be talking about the finished thing as opposed to still trying to get it out there and stuff. But it's awesome.
I imagine because especially with the subject that it is and involved, the fact that it was pre-pandemic when I heard that is kind of surprising. If you wouldn't mind just giving my listeners just a brief, maybe a synopsis from your words, what End Times is about.
I really the whole time have thought of it as a love story that takes place at the end of the world. Kind of a platonic love story, more like a father-daughter story. Um, uh, it's about a kind of pampered young suburbanite who finds herself caught in the midst of this zombie apocalypse, and she meets up with this seasoned sort of ex-mercenary guy who's done a lot of things he's not proud of, and he for his part gets a sort of a second chance to salvation in being able to train this young woman on how to survive in this kind of hostile new environment for which she is completely unsuited to make it. She's her days are numbered except unless he can train her up. So they kind of go on this journey within the story of the film. Los Angeles is quarantined off in this couple 100-mile square territory, and their goal is just to get out of the quarantine and see if they can get to safety. And what they find at the quarantine changes that plan.
Yeah, and it is a bit of a familiar story, but I liked your take on it in that you had this more of a plutonic relationship, as you said, between Claire and Freddie. Claire played by Jamie Bernadetta and Craig Stark playing Freddie. And I liked that because I was kind of worried. I was
Yeah.
watching this, I was like, okay, are we gonna have this turn into a romantical thing? But you didn't. Was that a conscious choice to try to make it at least
It
a
was
little?
it was very conscious, and it's why I wanted to cast a more veteran actor like Craig in the role. Who's obviously still, like, I'm sure plenty of women find him attractive or anything. I'm not trying to say that, but just to create enough of a generation gap there where you're not you're not hoping for it, right? You're not
Right.
anticipating it.
Mhm.
I think there's an interesting story to be told there about two people meeting at the end of the world, but that wasn't the story I wanted to tell. I wanted to have them form this new family unit because both of their lives have been shattered by the
Right.
events that happened. So I wanted to take two characters who were basically desolated at the beginning of the movie and have them find a reason to live together.
And, yeah, and you established that well, with this. I haven't dropped my review yet, but spoiler, I enjoyed it.
Oh, great!
I've watched a lot of zombie films in my time, and yeah, I liked your take on it. Now, did you have the actors in mind when you wrote this, or did you have this script already set and then, kinda cast to the part?
Jamie was there from the advent of the project, so we were kind of talking about working on a project together, and
Sure.
this is what we sort of came up with and decided to start working on.
Mhm.
We had to start quickly. The location that you see in a lot of the beginning of the film with the ruined town and everything was a location near where I live that I suddenly had access to that we were able to film at, but they were tearing it down as we spoke. So we could only start after 4 p.m. when the bulldozers stopped actually doing
Sure.
it. And we had to do the first half of the film basically. We had to shoot the first half of the film very quickly while those buildings and everything were still there because, like, there's scenes where we filmed inside a house, and then a week or two later we came back and we filmed on a pile of rubble, and that's that same house. We just it's the same
Sure.
physical location. It's just and then a month or two later it was just a flat piece of nothing that we could film on too.
Wow.
It was really, so it was a race against time for that. And again, like I said, it was summer, so we had about from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. to shoot, and that was it
Mhm.
because we lost the light. So it was tricky. It was a race. So we did that first half very quickly. So we had to cast it very quickly, and we just sort of went with people that we knew that
Sure.
we offered them roles and stuff and see
Mhm.
who's interested in what. And luckily Craig had reached out to me not too long before about working together about something, and I threw him the part, and he thought it was his kind of thing and stuff. He's known for being playing these characters in a lot of Tarantino films.
Right.
Uh, I don't think up until then he'd ever had a role with like this much dialogue and this much screen time in a film, like really carrying a film. But I knew he could do it, and I was proven right because he really can. He's really a movie star. He's almost like a Clint Eastwood type or something. I mean, he really does, and that accent is completely his accent. He's from Louisiana, and he's just got that drawl and everything. So he was just perfect.
He reminded me a bit of, excuse me, Michael Parks from
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
Tarantino films as well. Kind of his character, kind of like
yeah.
that style, and I
I
really
think it's the kind
liked
of
it.
person Tarantino's drawn to. There's an authenticity there. Yeah, exactly with him. Yeah,
Yeah, and I felt that with him, and Jamie and him really seemed to be able to play off each other well,
yeah.
especially with Jamie in a role that I will honestly say I'm not used to seeing her in, because usually she's in a little bit tougher roles. So
Yeah,
to see her in a role like this was great. I mean, I thought she did a really powerful performance, but
I think she did a great job being vulnerable and also
Mhm.
also being powerful at the same time. It's funny at some points during filming, she turned to me, she's like, she's saying all these lines as Claire, and she's like, Claire's so dumb. Why? It's driving me crazy. I was like, I know it's the character. Act it. So no, and she did. She was fantastic, and she was also a producer on the film. So
Sure.
she's doing these very intense emotional scenes, and then turning around and like helping coordinate meals and
Yeah.
locations and casting and stuff. I mean, that's a real right brain, left brain thing to be able to jump back and forth. Not everybody can do that. So she's a very impressive woman.
Yeah, and it was a very, emotional performance on there,
Mhm.
and that's what, in all honesty, a number of surprises for me because of the genre, and zombie genre is quite popular and been done quite a bit, but you brought a lot of emotion and weight in this film, versus what you might normally see, especially, and no offense to anyone, I love their movies, and sometimes they're, The Asylum, when you hear The Asylum and
Yeah,
Zombie Picture, you don't exactly think of a more emotional character-driven piece like this is.
we're a bit of a misnomer. I don't know. It's really funny. No, it just came out really organically.
Mhm.
Jamie had worked with the asylum, the folks at the asylum before. She'd had another film she was in and produced called The Sixth Friend, released by the asylum a couple years
Mhm.
ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we kind of had the in
Sure.
there, and once they took a look at the film and they looked at it like that. Well, they're like, well, this is fun. Like, no, fun's the word for it, but okay, sure, whatever. Yeah, things happen very quickly from there and everything. But
Yeah.
we're so glad to be coming out to them because their distribution arm is so powerful.
Mhm.
Their name brand recognition for whatever Sharknado or this or whatever is so pervasive, I should say.
Mhm.
That is great. It's great really working with people who are really good at what they do
Yeah,
because
and,
there's a lot of distributors out there that are not as good as
yeah.
what they do.
I've heard some horror stories about some
Yeah,
of the distributors out there,
yeah. I've
and
worked with distributors. Yeah.
and especially with Asylum, because for me, Asylum made one of the best zombie series out there, Z Nation. I'll take
Yeah,
Z Nation over Walking Dead. Yeah, I said it. Uh,
right. Z Nation was great.
so, what kind of influenced your story? Because I've seen references to The Last of Us, though this obviously came out before the series. What kind of things influenced you for your approach of a slightly different zombie story?
Well, this is coming up in a lot of the interviews, but I feel like it's part and parcel part of this origin story of the
Mhm.
film. So I'm from Pittsburgh originally, so I
Okay,
grew up with Night of the Living Dead and
sure.
Dawn of the Dead. Those two films are very pervasive in the horror
Mhm.
culture of the town. It's part of our identity, really. Um,
Mhm.
so those are touchstones, and whenever anything's a touchstone, I think you can't ignore it, right? You have to
Right.
either lean into it or lean away from it, or
Sure.
do something. Um, but really, the thing I want to do is just write a story about two characters that almost had nothing to do with the zombies. The zombies
Mhm.
are
Right.
a
Mhm.
are a are a mechanic, a mechanical thing that drives the plot forward and
Right.
drives these two
Mhm.
characters forward. But really, the story is about these people, and it's also about how people recreate themselves when
Mhm.
our culture falls apart. Do they reinvent themselves as something new? Is that new thing devoid of the morality that they were forced to deal with with our
Mhm.
culture, where there's, they're living in this world now where there's no laws, there's no rules, there's no punishment,
Right.
there's no cops, there's no anything. Who do you choose to be in that new world, right? Do you choose to still be a force for good and compassion? Do you choose to just rape and kill people? Who do you know? The people you know, which way do you think they would go, right?
Right.
Like, right? I always make the joke about the grandma in the kitten sweater that I swear would immediately start eating human beings. Like there would be
Yes.
no. I've worked with some of these people. I swear to God, they would. Yeah, I used to say, like, in the zombie apocalypse, she'd just start eating people like that. She'd have no compulsion about it, right? There's even a scene like that in Book of Eli, where they meet the cute old
Yes.
couple, and they realize they've been eating people the whole time and everything. It's just like that. So that's the idea. Like, again, the zombies push the story forward,
Mhm.
but
Well,
what we're really talking about is a human evolution story.
right. And you kinda have that element here, the whole kitty the old lady in the kitty sweater element here later on in the film when we get to
Mm,
the commune, the
yeah.
however you wanna put it, it felt the same way. It's funny because when they came up, I'm like, "These people are scarier than the people in the
Yes.
wasteland."
Exactly. Then the road warrior people. Yeah, it's always
Yeah,
the pretty people, right? It's always the nice people, and it's it's in the film where he talks about, it's like, they look nice, they smell nice, they dress nice, they're pretty. They're like, he's like, nothing works this well. There's something up and stuff, and
yeah,
it's this next part of this teaching story
right.
where Claire just doesn't still have the wisdom yet to trust her senses and to listen to that inner voice and stuff that is just going off in Craig's ear
Yeah,
when they meet these people.
that street smarts. It almost felt like a little bit
Yeah,
like it almost felt a bit like Claire was resistant to knowing street smarts, like, she was almost intimidated by it. I mean,
yeah,
she learned
yeah,
how to defend herself with the, knife, but
yeah,
as she progressed and there is some growth, I still get this hesitation with her, which surprised me because a lot of characters like this, we see suddenly that character, like, embrace it, like,
yeah,
have their
yeah. That
Rocky montage moment,
that
and then
that's what
they
I was trying to avoid, was that instant thing, right? That steep climb. I wanted this to be, and I honestly, I think she's just she's hypnotized by Kaiwai Lyman,
Mhm.
because he's so hunky in the movie, right? With the long hair and everything like
Yeah,
that. I just, you buy it. You're like, okay, well, he's pretty. He's
he
but Kai is, I mean, he doesn't hurt people in real life or anything, but Kai really in real life is that magnetic and stuff like that. You want to kind of hang with him. You want to be buddies with him because he's just the coolest dude. He never wears shoes and he rides Harleys, and I mean, he's just like, you're like, dude, you're just, who lives in Venice? Come on, like,
oh,
he's just way too cool. His wife's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, Kai's a great guy, and it was he came through Jamie working on this project, and he was really a great collaborator.
he was. He gave me a little bit of a little bit of Manson vibes,
Hmm.
but at the
Right.
same time, very more charismatic. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's just I've
He's
watched.
kind of like what Manson thought he looked like,
Right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you
In
know,
his mind's eye, like that's who I am. It's like so one of the critics thought the line where you described Freddie described him as Viking Jesus was really funny, because he kind of looks like Viking Jesus.
that made me really laugh when he
Yeah,
called him Viking Jesus because yeah,
but nailed
he
him with that. Yeah,
he
I like
nailed
that
him
one.
with that, and yeah, I liked that dynamic how you have the different worlds that they're living in, and Jamie
Yeah,
Bernadette definitely puts in an emotional. I mean, her Claire goes through hell,
yeah,
especially that first half hour of the
yeah.
film.
Just that. Yeah, yeah. But
That
during the production, I actually grabbed a couple stills, and I grabbed a picture of Jamie at her character at the beginning of the
sure.
film, at the very beginning, which there was actually a whole 10-minute opening that we actually cut out of the film, which
Oh,
if we ever get a Blu-ray release, will be on the as an added feature.
sure.
Just sort of like it's like day zero of Claire
Mhm.
waking up and just going about her day, and then only realizing what's happening. We chose to just drop her in the middle of the film, but I sent her a picture of her in one of those scenes, and I sent her a picture of herself at the end, and I said, like, this looks like two completely different characters. This is, the journey she goes on as a character is really, I'm very proud of.
Mhm.
It's not an arc. It's actually like a full, almost like, 180-degree parabellum or something like that. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
It's fun to do.
it
And it's
is
also
a
fun to take someone like Jamie and like mess her up and make her look like creepy and stuff like that. And I think she enjoyed doing that too.
yeah, the makeup effects looked great. You do have some. digital effects, but you do have a lot of practical in here as well. Conscious choice on that, even though it might add to your budget a bit?
Yeah, a lot of it was, yeah, as much as we could get away with. We filmed
Sure.
during a summer where it was really, really dry, and we filmed up a lot of the Hollywood Hills and Simi Valley and stuff. So any idea that we were going to be using blanks or squibs or anything like that went out the window, because you can't do that safely in those environments unless you have like fire trucks ready for it and stuff,
Right,
which
right.
did not have the budget for. So
Sure.
by necessity, like all the gunfire, and a lot of the hits and stuff are digital. Some of the blood and gore effects we did do. My buddy Doc Death,
Mm.
Anthony Eicher,
Oh, yeah.
worked
Mm,
on, and I've worked with him on a couple films, and most of everything was CO2, compressed air,
mm, okay.
gags and stuff like that with hoses and everything like that. So,
Sure.
there's no actual like fire element and stuff like that, but you get this great effect. What I like to do is at least start with something like that and then add and augment it a little bit
Mhm.
digitally, so you don't the audience doesn't really see where the handoff is. I remember hearing Guillermo del Toro talk about doing stuff like that for way back in like Blade 2 in the old days, where um, he would just, hides the line of like what's real and what's not, and so the
Yeah.
audience just goes with it, and that's what I like to lean into that quite a bit. But yeah, all the zombie effects. I mean, to me, if you're doing a zombie film and most of it's not prosthetics, then what are you doing? Like that's kind of
Right.
like a Wolfman movie. I mean, the fun of it is doing the makeup and everything like that, and subjecting actors to that, which is really fun. But there's some scenes where you do the blind eye contact stuff
Mhm.
like that, and there's some scenes where you have to go in and digitally kind of remove some of the edges of the contact and smooth some things out. There's just little bits, but for the most part, yeah. If it's just something really there, um, I it does help the actors find the performance, and we were really trying to do something just a little different with the zombies. I was talking to all the actors about, especially Victoria Demare. She played the first zombie we shot, and I talked to her about like her synapses misfiring and like almost having
Mhm.
like an MS type episode or something like that, and as opposed to just like growling and stalking and everything. I
Right.
was really trying to get to like a unique physical ambulatory kind of look for the zombies.
Yeah, and you have that, and they're still a threat. They still
Yeah.
feel a threat. They travel in packs. Not all of them, exactly. Some of them run, some of them shamble, which I appreciate the mixture.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Well, it's like kind of what stage are they at, right? I mean, if
right.
they're kind
Mhm.
of freshly gone, started with the disease, yeah, they'd still be able to ambulate and move pretty quickly. As they're starting to, shut down, then yeah,
Mhm.
obviously they're losing the strength and coordination.
You have a few pretty dark scenes, as I mentioned earlier, what Jamie goes through in the beginning. When you're shooting these, and I always like asking this, were there any moments or something in the script that you wrote out, and then as you're thinking about doing it, you're like, maybe we shouldn't go that far with it?
There's a moment on set, I will say, where you go, I wish I hadn't written this into the thing. Filming a
Sure.
scene of a sexual
Yeah.
assault or something like that. It's not obviously fun.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
something you want to take seriously, and it's something I, to me, like any kind of violence in a movie, like I think it's only fair to treat it as something horrible and show it
Mhm.
as something horrible, because if you
Sure.
minimize it, then you're minimizing people who've actually experienced violence of all sorts of different kinds.
Mhm.
So it is something, but it's something that, just like if you're doing a stunt or a gunshot, it changes the tone of the set, where everything,
Mhm.
you're having fun, you're doing all sorts of lines, and everyone's yelling and shooting and running and stuff, and then everything stops. We did that scene. There was nobody in the room except for Jamie,
Yeah.
Dan Baran, my cinematographer
Okay.
Ray, and I. Jamie had actually picked Dan. She cast him
Mm.
like as her
Sure.
rapist, basically. And I wanted her to do that because I wanted her to find somebody who she was going to feel safe and comfortable
Comfortable
with,
with, yeah.
and that they could do it. Yeah. And we did it very quickly. We shot with two cameras, so we didn't have to do many resets, and we just kind of we gave Jamie a few minutes
Mhm.
to get there, and then we shot it and just got through it as fast as we could, while making sure we got what we needed, and then moved on
Right.
to more fun, enjoyable things. Yeah, but and 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 I'll be happy if I never have another scene like that in any of my movies ever again. That's
Sure.
fine with me. I would, I don't know if I'd even do that now. But the whole idea of it was, I think you've seen these two parallel stories now happening at the beginning of the film with Jamie and with Craig. And I think the expectation is that the guy's going to show up in the nick of time and save her,
Right.
from this attack. And the point I think we were trying to show is that no, he doesn't. He's not going to spoilers, he's not going to show up in time, right?
Right.
Um, she's going to have to deal with this herself, and then he shows up and he saves her from another type of
Right.
possibly more even fatal incident. But the idea is like he's not the Freddy's not the hero of the story,
Hmm.
nor is uh, Claire. They're just two characters trying to get through the unendurable.
Yeah, and that's what I felt. There was no like actual. I mean, as badass as Freddy is, at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
he's not like Rambo gun type
Yeah,
of guy.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
like you said, he's trying to survive, and I like that dynamic,
right.
and especially in the beginning when we're introduced to him. It's pretty shocking. So he and Claire both have that parallel of pretty much a mental breaking moment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, right.
And I could see where that would bring them together. Um,
Yeah, they're just both desolated at the beginning of the film, and they need to find each other and to find a new reason to survive. Because it'd be so easy to just not at that point, just
give up.
lay
Yeah,
down and
yeah.
whatever happened to you. Yeah. So,
and
but we
and
do get obviously later on we do get some satisfaction when they run back into
yeah.
that group and stuff. And I do like the moment where Craig's like, "You got to do this.
Mhm.
This is on you" and stuff. And that's again a next step in Claire's evolution.
Yeah, yeah, I like that call, and one of the things that I find funny with a lot of with a number of zombie films that are more serious, is how much they paint the human nature as just if civilization went to crap, almost everybody would go psycho.
Well, yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and again, that's my as a guy, I think part of the story I wanted to tell was a story of three guys, of
right?
Freddie and Ciro and Hayden, and
Hmm.
how each of them again reacts to now living in a world without rules. How much of their inner morality or lack thereof kind of comes out, like I was saying before. And I think
Hmm.
by casting these three very good actors, who all physically there's a little similarity. They all have the beards and they all have, some shaggy hair and
Sure.
everything like that. I mean, they're not all too dissimilar.
Right.
I'm like doing like this three-way triangle of like which way would you go kind of a thing.
Yeah, and you pull that off well, and I did like the separation between the worlds, and almost making it feel like our couple have nowhere really to go if they want to be with people. They just really should be with
Right.
each other, which I'm not going to spoil the ending, just saying that it gets a bit heartbreaking.
Yeah, it gets
Uh,
complicated, right?
it gets complicated as you get near the end of the film.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
and and as part, we've gotten a few of the critics have talked about it, like well, they just seem to wander a lot in the movie, and it's just there's a lot of walking, there's a lot of thing, and I can appreciate that, and okay, there's a certain type of film that if you want to see something where it's just all kinetic and action, okay, great, but the point of doing this, the point of doing a 2 hour drama that's very widescreen and has like this big
yeah.
landscape, it was this idea that like there's a certain amount of tedium to their lives too. Like it's not all run, gun, shoot, escape, hide. There's a lot of walking. It takes a while to get to when you're having lived in LA. If you're trying to get from San Pedro to Santa Clarita and you're walking, yeah, it's gonna take some
Yeah.
time. Trust me, it's gonna be hot and it's gonna be miserable because we were out in that exact kind of weather in
Sure.
most of our locations, very far away from bathrooms, very far away from any kind of shade and a lot of comfort and stuff. But we filmed in some really forlorn places. But I'm really proud of I was able to capture this desolated landscape in the midst of one of the most populous cities in the country. And most of these places, you just turn just a little bit, you're going to see the 110 or just a little bit over. And there's, like I said, I could make a 3 hour cut of this movie of just the actors sitting and waiting for planes to pass overhead
Oh, sure,
for the
sure.
sound. So it'd be just 20 minutes of
Yep.
Freddie just standing like, okay, clear for sound. Let me go. So
Favorite
it
sound.
was it was
Yeah.
it was inevitable. We got
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah, I was on a set. I was a script supervisor for one. We were filming at a farmhouse, and we had to wait because it was supposed to be a desolate farmhouse, but it was right
Mm.
near a road, so we'd have to
Right.
wait. We're like, oh wait, nope, car.
You,
Okay.
you don't realize how many trucks have air brakes until you're
Yeah.
trying to film, and you realize that wow, there's a lot of air brakes out there.
There's a lot of air brakes. But I did like your location. I was wondering, I'm glad you mentioned about how you found that place that was getting demolished, because I was wondering how you found the locations, because you have a lot of practical settings. It's not like digitally enhanced to it. It's these are ruins, and I'm like, where'd you go to Detroit to film some of
Yeah,
this
yeah,
stuff?
yeah. Well, that was actually near me. My wife and I
Yeah,
bought a house a couple years ago, and
yeah.
it was a few neighborhoods over from where we lived in the South Bay. And every day I would drive with a whole bunch of stuff in the car, excuse me, to the new house, and I'd pass this old. It was an old Navy housing yard back
Oh,
when the
okay.
Navy had a base
Hmm.
in Long Beach. That base shut down. So since the 80s or so, that place has been abandoned. Um, no one was ever allowed to film there. The LA SWAT team used to use it to test, to practice
Yeah,
raiding and stuff. Like I said, there was goats on the property that would mow the lawns. There was
sure.
coyotes that would eat stuff. One day before we started shooting, we had to have someone come in and take like this really fresh coyote kill out of the room we were about to shoot with Veronica Demare. Uh, uh,
Uh,
uh,
sure.
right. I mean, there was we walked in like we scouted the day before, everything was fine. But in the day, it's like, oh,
Oh,
where's its head? Oh, geez, yeah. Super dangerous. Just tons of nails and
yeah.
boards and wire and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, coyotes and everything like that. It was
Wow.
I went there to just get some second unit footage one evening before I went to meet my wife for dinner, and I got in there right around dusk just to get some stuff. And after a minute, I realized like I'm alone in this entire neighborhood,
Yeah.
like, and only the guard at the gate knows I'm here, and he might just
Mhm.
go home and forget it. And if I fall into a hole or something like that, like the coyotes are gonna get me. Like it was a spooky place. My wife and I just went there and toured one of the townhouses that they've built now. Now it's an entire community with like $1.3 million townhouses. It's incredible. It's
Wow.
incredibly posh now. It's
Sure.
hilarious. You'd never guess what it used to look like. I was nice. We in a way we got to chronicle this place that is
Hmm.
gone now.
Sure.
Since no one else ever got to film there and stuff. It was a great experience. It was fun.
That was cool that you got to film there,
Yeah,
and
they were
that's
really
the
nice. They were really cooperative. We
and there
appreciate it.
was inspiration for you too, alone in this city, in this
Yeah,
neighborhood with,
yeah, yeah. And it was
nothing.
and it was only like 20 minutes from my house, which is nice when you're the writer director. You get to like pick some locations that are like, yeah, pretty easy commute for everyone else is coming down from the valley and taking like an hour to get to the location. I'm like, I don't know, just
I
right down
got
the hill for
time.
me. Yeah,
Sure.
good to be the king sometimes. Not
It's
bad.
good to be the king. So what kinda, zombie or horror films, would you say have inspired you to make you were there any that wanted you to make a filmmaker? What made you wanna get into this crazy business?
Um, well, like I said, I think definitely Night of the Living Dead was a
Mhm,
touchstone. They would show it on TV, locally a lot,
mhm.
not least because it was free from copyright at that point,
Sure, sure.
because the copyright failed on it. Yeah, my buddies and I would go to Minerva Mall in high
Mhm,
school and go visit the bridge and stuff, where they filmed Dawn of the Dead and everything. So it was kind of like I said, it's part of the zeitgeist of where I grew up.
mhm.
But I also I'm a big classic horror movie fan.
Oh, okay.
I actually have a podcast of just the talk we talk about mostly like old Universal horror and
Oh,
stuff from that era.
nice.
So early on, I got
Sure.
really into like White Zombie with
Mhm.
Bela Lugosi. I got into Val Luden's I Walked with the Zombie, the
Oh, yeah.
Jacques Tournier
Mhm.
director, which is one of my favorite. We just did an episode on that in the thing, and it's just elegant. There's almost nothing supernatural in that movie. It almost sells you. It's just like, no, voodoo's real, and here it is. And then it's that movie is really a human drama that takes place against this backdrop of this Caribbean island where
Right.
there's these practices, and that in its own way was kind of a big influence on me. I think I'm really influenced by a lot of older horror films, like pre 80s, like pre Jason,
Yeah.
like I'm talking, Carnival of Souls and movies like that. So yeah, I just take a little bit from all that stuff, but really, I think when you succeeded in a horror genre film is when non-horror fans will watch it too. Like you've
Mhm,
crossed
mhm.
over. And I
Right.
have people in my life that do not like horror movies, but if I can get them to watch and invest in something I've done and get past the initial
Sure.
knee-jerk horror reaction, I feel like I've succeeded in something.
And yeah, I think that's the thing with horror, and even specifically zombie movies. They have a stigma of sorts with them that people kind of
Mhm.
are hesitant. You're like,
Mhm.
the great thing about horror is it can cover a lot of subgenres. I mean, like
Yeah.
your film with End Times, it's more dramatic, but it is in a horror setting. and then you get your
Right.
basic straight slasher, but then you have sci-fi horror, and you've got,
Yeah, but I'm
sass.
a huge fan of comedy horror. I'm a huge
Oh
fan of
yeah.
Tremors, Bubba Hotep,
Oh.
Abbott and Costello, Frankenstein, obviously, any Evil Dead. I mean, really, Evil Dead's really a comedy horror. Come on. I've realized like some of my favorite horror movies are all those movies, Army of
Mhm.
Darkness and everything. Like I really enjoy all those old like kind of. I just like being entertained. A different Jim Towns made End Times, from a couple
Mhm.
years ago, and I've made a couple films since then. If I was told to remake this movie now and given a whole
Mhm.
bunch of money, I don't know what would be different or what wouldn't it be. I think it'd be more colorful now. I
Sure.
was really into this desaturated thing, and since then I've really embraced color in my movies recently. But I don't know if it would be better or not. It would just be a different movie because I really think we got something special.
Well, the desaturation helps with the tone of the film.
Yeah.
I mean, they did that in Walking Dead as well, and a
Yeah,
number
which
of
is
other
also the era
series.
we were making it in. So there was kind of like that was
Yeah.
like the shorthand, right? This is how you do this
Mhm.
kind of thing. Okay, it worked.
Though I do appreciate the fact, like I said, that I keep coming back to it, to the ruined the neighborhood, because Walking Dead, my only problem with that is I'm like, wow, look at how immaculate the yards are after like three
Yeah,
years of a zombie
yeah,
apocalypse.
yeah. Well, we were. I mean, we filmed it for a while, and we were having our share of jokes about like how much underarm hair Jamie Burnett would really have. We were really doing this for, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's certain caveats you have to just give up
Well, yeah.
on with the
Yeah.
thing. So everyone's haircut stays mainly the same and stuff. So yeah.
You mentioned your love for Universal. I love old horror too. I mean, I love a lot of horror, but I always enjoy watching old horror because it always surprises me. Recently on our podcast, we just did The Last Man on Earth.
Oh yeah,
We
Vincent
talked
Price,
about Vincent Price.
yeah,
Man, you watch that film and you're just like,
killer.
when was this made?
Yeah.
You look at some of these, or Alfred Hitchcock. A lot of people,
Mhm.
you look at some of his earlier work, and and even his later stuff, Rope and the Birds. People who sit there and go, "Well, I won't watch anything past like 99 or 2000." I'm like,
Yeah, before I was born. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but then you look at these films and you go, "Wait, I see Spielberg in this one. I see where Tarantino borrowed from here. I see where." You can see where
Um,
all the directors got influenced
yeah.
from.
Kenneth Toby's. It came from another, or no, the thing from another world.
Mhm, mhm.
The Howard Hawks film was
Yeah,
kind of, yeah, it's kind of Toby and everything like that. James Arness. I mean, aside from obviously James Arness's suit, which kind of dates the
yeah.
thing, you could show that to someone now, and it looks like it was just shot. Like the way the dialogue overlaps and everything like that. It's an incredibly put together film. It's one of my favorite sci-fi movies ever.
Yeah, no, it's a
And
great
and
film,
and
and
Carpenter's obviously
well,
too, because
yeah.
he remade it and he put it in Halloween and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that, you were influenced by the classics because they still use some of the, gimmicks and tropes that are used today. Those
I,
tools are
I always
tried
say,
and true.
yeah, yeah. I always say a trope is a trope because it works every time.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a reason, like the whole villain at the end redeems himself by self-sacrificing thing works. It's in all these things because it works. It works every time. We're just somehow our DNA we're programmed to accept that. No matter how many bad things he's done, if he at least gives himself up for the greater good at the end, we are ready to cheer for him and stuff. I don't know why. It's what works. So yeah, trope's a trope because it works every time, and there's no shame in leaning into that. And things that work. So the things that work in
Right.
the Wolfman work now. Things that work in the Seventh Victim or Freddy in Space or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like they work.
We haven't done Freddy in space. I'd like to see a
Freddy
Nightmare
in
on Elm
Space. Yeah.
Street
Oh, it's Jason.
space.
Jason in Space. That's right.
Jason. It
It's
was
not
Jason
Freddy.
in space. Oh yeah, Jason X is one of my favorite. I know, blasphemy. I love that. That movie's so insane. But speaking of tropes, I mean, you made a film in a genre that has a lot of tropes,
Yeah.
in it, but they work to help tell the story, and with end times, and it, because like you said, they're effective. I mean, yeah, zombies have been done, but you could still tell a human story, which is what End Times
Right.
does,
And you can
and
sometimes pick those little things I mean, almost every zombie store film has the moment where someone you like gets
gets
bit or
bit. Yeah.
whatever and starts turning over. And that's in everything from, Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake
Mhm.
and, everything. Um, but it's usually something that happens and gets dealt with and moves on. And
Right.
I'd never felt like that had been given like a lot of time and a lot of
Mhm.
weight emotionally. And I think that only works if it happens towards the end where you really are in love with the character by then, hopefully. And when it's the character you don't think is going to happen, like that's the other thing. So the fun thing about the trope is if you can find a way to just undermine it a little bit and
Mhm.
turn it on its ear a little bit, then it's sort of born again. And I think that's been a fun thing to play. And that's why, I mean, the film actually sort of has 4 acts. There's sort of the three
Right.
acts, and then there's this final coda that's 10, 12 minutes long or so
Mhm.
that we really took a lot of time doing. And we filmed in one day, by the way. That
Wow.
entire ending bit in the warehouse was one off, just like 15-hour day or something like that.
Oof.
Everyone hated me by the time we were done filming that scene, but we got through it, and we got some special stuff. But we had to do it so we could keep track
Right,
logistically,
yeah.
no spoilers, like step by step by step in
Mhm.
the evolution, and have it all make sense. So yeah, that was worth doing it. That was fun.
Yeah, and I think it pays off quite a bit because it ends strong. And it ended not quite where I expected it to go, which I appreciate
That's
quite a
that's
bit.
the goal. Yeah. See.
Where you go with the characters because, like I said, there's so many out there. It's a little bit of, I imagine, a challenge to try to come up with something at least somewhat, feeling a bit fresh to where people are like,
Yeah.
yeah, you did this different. This is great. What would you
Exactly.
say? What would you say was your a scene where you thought it was just going to be just a huge challenge and ended up just going off real easy, like,
You know, there's two scenes that take place by campfires.
Mhm.
Um, and one of them we shot on that location where like there'd been a house and now there was
Right.
just a big gravel thing. So that's the second one. And the first one we shot in my backyard because some location didn't work out, and we're like, all right, we're just going to use the fire pit in my backyard. And I'll say, like, you think that's going to be a problem, and then you have there's this whole amazing organic thing. It made me want to film a bunch more scenes by firelight where the character will be doing saying something and have this emotional thing, and just as they do that, the fire will die down for a second, and the light on their face will
Mm,
fade a little
sure.
bit, and they'll become darker, like literally, like
Yeah.
visually darker. And then at some point, the flames will just show up right in front. There's an organic handoff there that's like, man, that just works sometimes. It's really funny how that goes. Like, and it's just, and it's easy to, then you do the reverse and the flames are on the other side. And
Sure.
it's just, there's something about two characters having a conversation over, between a fire that just resonates. So yeah, those were things I was like, oh God, there's gonna be a mess. We have to have a fire hydrant handy and, everything like that. And those two scenes went great. Those were amazing.
Yeah, and they looked great too, as does the rest of the film. So,
Yeah.
how long did you say altogether that you shot this?
We shot over almost an entire summer, so we shot over like
Oh,
two or
wow.
3 months or so, like
Mhm.
that. Because we're all doing a bunch of different jobs, so we would sort of shoot
Sure.
for a couple days, take a break, regroup. I'd have to like work on locations, and we'd have to figure out
Mhm.
costumes and everything, and then like shoot another couple days and stuff. So it dragged on a lot longer than we expected it to. But it's that's the price to do it. And also, like, I was doing some things I had never done before. I'd never walked on a set and had 30 actors standing there like in the village
Yeah.
scenes and stuff. That's a lot without, I mean, you have your AD and everything, but it's still a lot to manage and keep track of. So it doesn't go as quickly as when I was running and gunning with my earlier smaller films. Yeah. So yeah. So it was a long thing. Jamie does get darker as you go through the film. If you notice, she got
Yeah.
tanner and tanner and tanner
Yeah.
as the film went on. I somehow didn't, even though I was on the sun just as much. I don't know. That's just me. I
It
just burned.
happens. You were
Yeah.
just burned. Yeah, no, I think End Times will surprise a lot of people. If they haven't watched it, it's out on VOD now. And what's next for you? What you got coming up?
I filmed a movie, an exorcism movie called The Possession of Anne with Sadie Katz.
Mm,
She was the
mhm.
star and the producer. It also stars Vernon Wells from The Road Warrior
Oh,
and
nice. Yeah.
Commando.
Mhm.
Uh, it's about a woman who's possessed and nobody believes her, so she has to check into this sleazy motel and exorcise herself. And the only person she has to help her is this disgraced priest that is who Vernon plays.
Oh my god.
We shot that like the end of 2021. It's done now and it's
Mhm.
up for sale, and we're waiting to hear when it's going to drop. But I think it's going to come out probably closer to Halloween of this year.
Nice.
I just shot an action martial arts film called Killer X, and when I
Ooh,
say shot, I actually shot it myself. It's the first feature I've actually been the DP on. So I've shot other stuff. I've shot B Unit. I shot some of the
sure.
scenes in End Times, but I just wanted to give that a try, and it was really hard. But there's also kind of like a you cut out the middleman, right? When you're your
Mhm.
own cinematographer.
Sure.
So that was fun. It stars Jose Torres, who's also the actor, the lead actor, William Christopher Ford from Karate Kid 3, and Michelle Mohammed Kisi
Oh.
from Kickboxer is
Mhm.
in it. So that's being edited right now, and it's coming out next year sometime. And then next year, I'm going down to the U.S. Virgin Islands and filming another sort of action, a real action movie with like jet
Mhm.
ski chases and stuff called Paradise Fallen. We just went
Wow.
down there last month and met with representatives of the government down there. They're really excited to have another feature film shoot there because there has not been a major feature film shot on in the U.S. Virgin Islands since Weekend at Bernie's 2 in
Wow, really? That
1993,
long?
which I love, which I found out that I went nuts because like it's a zombie movie. My friend and I saw that movie at the
Yeah.
Dollar Cinema when it came out in '93, and we're like, it's a zombie movie. This is great. They took it here. So yeah, I'm excited to do that. So that's kind of, yeah, I'm shooting that next year. So yeah,
Nice.
there's a lot of stuff coming out.
That's a bit of a jump from horror to action.
Yeah, I'm a former martial artist myself.
Oh, okay.
I shot a
Mhm.
pilot for a show called Immortal Fists a couple years
Mm.
ago as well, and that's still making the rounds and everything like that. So it's nice to sort of jump back and forth out within the genres.
Mhm.
I'm still pretty much a genre filmmaker, but it's nice to bounce around within it and stuff. Martial artists are great to work with. They're really trained to
Sure.
like learn one sequence of physical things and to do it exactly the same every time. So you can put the camera down and they do it, and you move the camera and they do the exact same thing. There's no continuity problems with what time,
Sure.
what line the actor lifts their glass to drink or something like that. They're just and they don't complain either. They're really tough people because no one's like, oh, I'm tired. What time's lunch? I'm
They
hungry. Sometimes they
yeah.
do, not always.
They enjoy what they're doing though, so,
Yeah, yeah,
well
they're
then
great people.
for martial artists, if you're a martial arts, movie fan at all, what would you say what is your favorite martial arts movies?
Ooh, I gotta say, Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Nice,
the
yeah.
the Christoph Gans film. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, just amazingly one of the most beautiful looking movies that's ever been made. And the martial arts stuff, Philip Glock stuff in there is killer. I'm a big old school Enter the
Sure.
Dragon fan.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really excited to get. I just saw the Big Brawl
Oh,
has been released in the original Mandarin cut
oh, it
version
was?
and in the
Really?
language or something like that. Yeah, I'm really
Oh,
excited to see if
wow.
that's. I'm not sure if that's available in US yet or not, but I really like to check that out too because it gets away from the subtitle or
Yeah.
the dubbing and everything like that. So yeah, huge fan. Also a huge old school Godzilla fan. I love those
Yes!
old the old Toho stuff and everything like that. So that's a goal of mine. Is like I want to direct a kaiju movie, like a real kaiju
Oh,
movie,
yeah.
guys in suits and stuff.
Sure.
Because I see the behind the scenes stuff of Rodan on the wires and stuff. And it's just like that looks like it must have been so much fun to make. Not to be the guy in the suit, but to be
Right, well,
like
yeah.
Ishiro Honda or something like that. One of those
Yeah.
guys directing those movies would be really fun.
Oh, man, you're just talking my language with all those
Hmm.
films.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is, Return to the 36th Chamber. I love
Hmm.
that film. I've got, like, 3 different copies of it, but,
Hmm.
yeah, I've enjoyed the action films as well. I'm a big genre consumer, so,
Yeah.
I appreciate you continuing, making different, genre films
Yeah.
because I think they're underappreciated. I mean, you mentioned Brotherhood of the Wolf. That's wonderful because not as many people talk about that film as they should, because
No.
that film is far better than what some people say it is. If you pay attention and look at it,
I think it just blows people's minds. What's happening. There's a giant monster, and now there's kung fu, and now Monica Bellucci's there, and she's beautiful. Like what is it's just every cool thing thrown together in a pot and barely mixed up, and you're just it's visually overwhelming and stuff like that. But what an amazing beautiful film.
and I'm a sucker for period horror myself. I think we
Hmm.
need more period horror pieces because I
Yeah,
think, I think those are unexplored angles because a lot of people do the modern horror stuff, but I'm like, I'd love to see, where you don't have to worry about, oh, what are they going to do? They have cell phones. They could have done it. No, set it in the 50s to where
yeah,
you have, very little resources at hand.
yeah. It's
Uh,
like Guillermo's Shape of Water, and then
mhm.
also a Crimson Peak as well. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
exactly.
And I mean, for that matter, Devil's Backbone.
Oh,
Devil's
yeah.
Backbones were my
Devil's.
favorite. I mean, those when I was starting to just get into filmmaking,
Mhm.
some of his movies like that one and stuff. really hit me with like you can do this and you can make this beautiful too. Like you can make beautiful horror, right? And Marcus Nispel, came along and did like,
Mhm.
say what you want about the remakes that he did like that. That guy is a beautiful visualist and stuff. One of my other favorite ones of his is Pathfinder.
Oh, Pathfinder,
It
yeah,
does. It
yeah.
doesn't get cooler than Pathfinder. It's almost a silent movie. It's incredible. But just like Vikings fighting Native Americans in the most beautiful looking cinematography you've ever seen. It looks like a Frazetta painting. Yeah, incredible. Marcus is a great guy. I know him a little bit. He's so talented.
Yeah, I love, but I just love when they mix stuff like that with genres, Brotherhood and all of those. Definitely interesting things and unsuspecting quite a bit.
Mm,
When you have that, you think of a certain way, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, are they doing martial art? Wait, is this like
yeah,
they're doing like John Wick stuff, and they're in like full
yeah,
Victorian
yeah.
outfits?
Why not? Yeah, exactly. Why not do
Why
that?
not?
I'd love to do stuff like that.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, I thank you, Jim, so much for this. Where can people keep up with your stuff? You mentioned the podcast. Please shill away.
Yeah.
Where can they find your stuff at?
Sure. Well, I'm on all the social medias. Just look up Jim Towns on Facebook, Twitter, or X, or whatever it's going to be called next week, and Instagram. My podcast is called the Borgo Pass Horror Podcast. Borgo Pass, as in Dracula's castle,
Mhm.
and it's on every single podcast platform you can imagine. Just look it up and stuff. We have like 70 some episodes, so it's like 100 and some
Wow.
hours worth. I mean, we'll do the Mad Doctor of Market Street with Lionel Atwill, and we'll talk about it for an hour and a half and stuff. We do like ridiculous deep
Nice.
dive. We did like a 3 hour two-part episode on Family Opera with Lon Chaney
Oh,
Senior and stuff.
wow.
So we
Yeah.
we get really deep into it and we get real nerdy. So if that's the kind of thing you're into, you're not going to run out of content anytime soon. Listen to the show.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. We'll definitely have to check that out. Because yeah, I like a lot of really B horror classic films because it's always fun to
Yeah.
see what they do with those. Like we just recently did was it we did a zombie film, I Eat Your Dead, I think it was, or
Oh yeah.
yeah, that one that one was interesting.
Well, I mean, I like especially some of the Universal ones like Horror Island and some of the
Oh yeah.
man-made monsters. Some of the cheapy ones they made because like that's the world I inhabit today. So I can
Sure.
imagine these guys are just using the leftovers of the sets they didn't use for other
Right.
movies and put them together. That's all the Val movies too. All those were done for dirt cheap and really just had to rely on good writing and good directing and good atmosphere. Good performances, great lighting and stuff. Yeah, so
It
doing a lot with not so much is something I'm not unfamiliar with.
Mhm. Scrounging for those scraps of length of film back in the day. I mean, now you've got digital,
Yeah,
but back then, hey man, you got like a hundred
sure.
feet of film.
Short ends and stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a problem I don't mind not having. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Well, thank you very much, folks. Check out End Times. It's out on VOD, put out by the Asylum. And yeah, thank you for your time. I'll put links down below for everything for all your stuff in the body of the episode for this. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate it, Mark. Thanks very much. Good talking to you.